is key. The same as being a clinician, your response to your patient, your feelings about this person who's sitting opposite you, taking all those feelings very much into account in your evaluation of the person is key.
Well,
So,
I think there's a difference in the exploratory phase or the clinical phase versus an attempt to prepare an experiment to convince a non-sympathetic audience. And their gold standard is a double-blind controlled experiment to rule out the potential unconscious bias of the experiment.
or the participants. The participants, I thought. Usually, I mean, the participants need to be blind to the fact that they're in either an experimental or a non-experimental condition. I know that's
one blind, but the double blind is when the experiment
both. Okay.
Who's getting what?
Okay. I know you, both of you. Okay, I'll just go ahead.
First of all, I appreciate the clear way you are bringing this complex material.
Okay.
And I would be interested in a quick comment on how you would say the muscle testing. I feel like muscle testing can actually capture some of this business about the subjective response and of the person and being measured by the galvanic skin current. What do you have to say about muscle testing?
Like kinesiology, you mean?
Yeah, kinesiology.
Kinesiology.
If you ask someone to imagine something pleasant and you test them and the strength of their muscles respond,
Alters because of, yeah.
If you're asking them to think about something negative, the body is not as strong.
Well, there you have it, really. You're describing what Reich...
It's a simple expression of what you're talking about.
Exactly. No, that's true. That's true. Sure. Sorry, this gentleman asked. Great hand raised a long time. Sorry.
Sure things. One, just on that comment, just the technicality, Reich wasn't measuring there's two things to measure in the skin. You have the current and you have the potential. Reich was interested in the potential because the potential shows energy moving out to the periphery of the body versus energy moving in, whereas the current goes across the skin. He was interested in the potential, and that's important because the other lady over here who was asking about if he was measuring diminished pulsation, he was actually measuring expansion and contraction in the experiments that she was referencing. And the last thing was on, now I just forgot what it was. It'll come back when the next person has it.
Well, thanks for the clarification. If anybody else wants to improve anything I've said, please, I invite you to do so. I'm sure I've made mistakes. Okay, okay, you've got it.
You were mentioning, just a clarification too, you were mentioning all the different pulses that the Chinese method is measuring, just to make the distinction that what was unique with Reich was how all the pulsations were coordinated into a single unitary pulsation. That's really important in understanding the distinction of Reich's work from a lot of other work. And integrated in the orgasm reflex, especially.
Thank you. Go ahead, Harry.
Just quickly, there's also, you mentioned Stephen Bushbeck in Frankfurt. There is a very, very interesting, the closest thing we have to a double-blind study done, he's an MD, but he also did a PhD research project on the accumulator, the effects of the accumulator, which was done as a double-blind study, which showed really, and it's been, I think it was published, I think an abstract of it was published in the Annals, one of the old Annals, showed clear evidence of some, without identifying what it was, that something happened to individuals who were in an actual accumulator as opposed to being in a dummy accumulator, and clearly something changed in terms of physiological reaction and response with patients, with participants who had no idea what they were stepping into or why they were stepping into it other than to participate in some sort of experiment. So there is clear material. Going back to one of the things that Dr. Herskovitz said, when the scientists who attempted for the FDA to build the case, the only case attempt was at the laboratory, other scientists were asked, and if you look at the reports, their response was, it's absurd, Reich's work is absurd, it has no scientific basis, and the FDA used that as scientific evidence of the so this was the kind of response, and you still get this to a large extent within the scientific community. There's an out-of-hand refusal to examine, the actual scientific presentation.
Yeah, oh, thank you. Go ahead.
What recent technological orgone developments have occurred? Once you mentioned orgone accumulated, those are inventions that are half a century old. What things have occurred since then, expanding on that and further developed?
Go ahead. Yeah.
A lot of the work in Germany has been on using the medical doorbuster to treat conditions. And they've been doing a lot of work to try and improve it, to try and find out how to make it more powerful, changing the certain helical coils, trying different types of material. They found that the water in the tank with the cloudbuster, the doorbuster grounds into, has to be moving quite rapidly and going in and out. So they're working in trying to figure out, I know, with the medical doorbuster, particularly, exactly what works best for that. That's one thing I know.
There are two little things on it. One, I know I was at a conference at the museum and somebody had come with a product that he had developed that was like a little Orgone energy coaster. And he was finding he was marketing it very successfully and seemed to alter the taste of wine or glasses of drink that were put on it. Now, I didn't test, I don't feel myself to be that qualified. What? What? Particularly after you drink it? No. I don't know. But in any case, he was making a successful business and was very grateful to Wright. Came to sort of, give his thanks for having gotten this new business line happening.
Warm too.
Pardon?
Keeps your coffee warm.
And I wondered, I have read a patent. I didn't read the patent, but I read the title to a patent. It was created by meteorologists who've been involved in orgone research. He had developed a device that allows for the identification of lightning well in advance of its occurrence, so that major the airplane industry, the aeronautical industry is very, very interested in this. And they've bought it and taken it and used it, to make sure that they know well in advance before they enter a lightning field of any kind, because it's very damaging, obviously, to plane electronics to be struck. So, and I know for a fact he had been very seriously invested in orgonomy at the time. Like I said, it may not have anything to do with orgonomy, but my recollection was that one of the great qualities of some of the cloud-busting tools, so to speak, or the whole Orgone energy research was that you could predict weather events much more specifically than our weather prediction systems can do otherwise. That's definitely the case. That in other words, if you're really into all the qualities and aspects of atmospheric research that you need to know to do Orgone energy weather research, you will have a very enhanced capacity for prediction, particularly for local events. Okay, so go ahead.
I accidentally did an experiment. I made an Orgone blanket, and we left it on my husband's ankle too long, and it actually made his sprain worse.
Oh.
And it produced so much energy that I had to keep it in the cold garage because the heat that came off it was too much.
Oh. Well, I wonder if somehow the materials you were working with might have become somehow altered by anything in your environment. Is that possible? Microwave radiation? You just
Don't use it near an old-fashioned cabinet with TVs. That's all.
right. Don't use it near TV sets. Don't use it near smoke detectors. Don't use it near microwaves. Don't use it near cell phones because they all radiate lots. Cell phone towers also. If you're close to cell phone towers or antennas in your neighborhood, definitely a problem. High tension energy wires and so forth and so on. You don't want to be living under one of those things and then have an accumulator there. I wouldn't. Be a bad idea. Or down the street have a nuclear power plant. Not a good idea. So anyway, go ahead.
Yes.
I'm sorry, there's somebody right behind you, sir, she's just had her hand up a little longer. Sorry. Go ahead.
As far as the Orgone blanket goes, I made one too. And my niece had a cyst removed, and it wasn't healing. And every time she went to her gynecology said, I don't understand this. So I said, gee, I'm going to make you an Orgone blanket. So I went out and got all the materials, and I made this Orgone blanket. and she laid it on there. Now, we weren't near any wires or anything, so it worked out. When she went back 5 days later, she was healed.
Wow.
Now, when she told him why, he thought she was nuts. And he told her to tell her aunt that she shouldn't be messing around with these things. But he would not, as you were saying, some people are just in denial. They don't want to hear it.
Yeah. It's too big a paradigm shift, I guess. Go ahead. And I know if people want to break for lunch, please, but go ahead. Sorry.
I just wanted to comment on the experiments of Mucinich. Because the only thing he found was a rise in temperature, but he also measured the heart rate, and he expected an increase in heart rate, because that would be a sign of less excitation of the parasympathetic nervous system. But he actually did not find that increase of the heart rate. There was actually a slight decrease.
I think it's the opposite.
Am I saying?
I think he had an increase in
Yeah,
heart
sorry.
rate, which he didn't expect to find.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed. Yeah, he thought there'd be a
He
parasympathetic.
expected to find a
Opposite.
decrease in the heart rate,
Yeah.
but he didn't find that. So what he found was a rise in temperature, which doesn't prove a lot about orgone energy.
Inside the body. Inside the body.
Inside
A
the
rise
body,
in body temperature.
Yeah, so something happened physiologically, but you cannot say from that that that's not enough to say that the experiment is very interesting.
Well, I think it's important to remember when this is a field of research that's extraordinarily broad, and there have been many, 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 many experiments that Reich himself carried out. And I'm not just talking about a temperature change of people within the accumulator. I'm talking about a wide variety of experiments with vacuum tubes, with Geiger counters, with electroscopes. If you went through and tried to do a laundry list of every single experiment that he carried out and what the results were, we'd be looking at a very long lecture right now. So I just want to point that out because I think it's important not to rely on one result to make conclusions about orgone energy, because I think we all tend to, and I guess maybe I feel you're going a little in that
Well,
direction.
I'm just trying to be the devil's